Today marks the end of the two-day ANC PEC Lekgotla held in East London in the Eastern Cape. The event marked a gathering that is crucial ahead of the local government elections. We spoke to the leaders of the party in the province who seemed to be quite excited and also confident in the party's renewal processes and also promising unity and action.
The ANC in the Eastern Cape concluded a successful provincial Lekgotla held from the 1st to the 2nd February 2026 at the East London International Convention Centre in Dr. W.B. Khubusana region. The ANC PEC Lekgotla is convened by the Liberation Movement to give practical effect to the priorities outlined in the January 8th statement, as you know, and develop a clear program of action for the year ahead, focused on renewal of the ANC, decisive leadership, and effective delivery of services to the people, as this year has been declared a year of a decisive action to make local government to function effectively. The Lekgotla received a political overview from the provincial chairperson, Comrade Mabuyane, on critical analysis of the public administration performance from the Public Service Commission progress report from the Stats SA, the provincial government report, the report from the Department of Water and Sanitation. The political overview set the tone for the Lekgotla and asserted that the ANC resolved to entrench its hegemony as a leader of the society. The chairperson reflected also on the urgent need for the government programs to alleviate the crisis of unemployment in the Eastern Cape, issues that relate to poverty, and to chart a way forward around how do we deal with crisis of unemployment in the Eastern Cape. The political input encouraged the organization to build functional structures, strengthen mass mobilization capacity, and to ensure that the ANC renews itself and reconnect with the base, which is the masses of the people. But that should also on the basis that we are able to address the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and disconnection with the people. The Provincial Lekgotla was attended by the ANC Provincial Executive Committee, members of the National Executive Committee, and leaders from the regions, and various categories from the traditional leaders, business, and the people from the church, and some of the leaders from government. And it was also addressed by the National Executive Committee through Comrade Kubai. As I have already said, the National Executive Committee input reiterated the NEC decision to declare the year 2026 as the year of a decisive action to fix local government and transform the economy. And therefore, that was the pinnacle of everything that the Lekgotla was all about. The National Executive Committee input also reflected on the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution of South Africa, and the fact that this year will be a year of national dialogue. And therefore, people are imagining the future beyond the last 30 years of a constitutional democracy. And to create also, use the Constitution as a social contract to liberate the people from the yoke of poverty, unemployment, and various problems. The 5 Lekgotla commissions concluded successfully focusing on fixing local government, improving service delivery, local elections, speeding up economic transformation and inclusive growth and job creation, waging war on crime, corruption, and gender-based violence, and building a South Africa that belongs to all, and making organizational renewal visible and irreversible, and building a better world and better Africa. On fixing local government, comrades, dear friends, the ANC focused on improving municipal governance, enhancing service delivery, and ensuring accountability to build trust with the people, and key outcomes also focused on the critical problems of the climate change and resilience of our society, disaster management, and improving water and sanitation services, enhancing water waste management, and increase access to electricity and energy, and to build roads and ensure that there is an access to electricity. On elections, the critical elements on elections is that we must win elections. And we can only win when we build resilient structures of the African National Congress, that are functioning democratically, and we unite the organization. And that particular issue of the unity is a matter that can enhance our capabilities as the African National Congress. And to reconnect the African National Congress to the entirety of the society of South Africa, in particular in the Eastern Cape. So we want to call upon the people to go out and ensure that they register to vote, they participate in government programs, they also participate in the African National Congress activities, as we'll be going out in various communities and in house to house to speak to them and to report back on what we have done over the past 5 years. Henceforth, the need for us to agitate for quicker change and to transform our society. On speeding up economic transformation, inclusive growth, and job creation, the ANC will prioritize economic transformation, focusing on job creation, SMME development, and infrastructure investment to drive inclusive growth. To drive inclusive growth, key outcomes will also include the 5 growth frontiers, namely agriculture. We'll deal with that particular matter of agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, oceans economy, and digital economy. Also on diversification of the auto sector from the European, American areas to the east. So there is new investment destinations now for auto sector. So that's what we are going to drive. The program of action for 2026 will focus on building ANC economic leadership, agro-processing, creation of new jobs, township and rural economic development, support for entrepreneurship and investment infrastructure, and ensure that the procurement regime favors locals, in particular in the local municipalities and provincial government. It's a matter that we have already started, and we are going to anchor every procurement decision on localization. On crime, you will know that we have been having many problems of crime in the Eastern Cape, in particular around gender-based violence and femicide, and henceforth the need to intensify our efforts to fight against crime, corruption, and gender-based violence, promoting safer and secure society for all. Key outcomes include strengthening of the criminal justice system, reduce crime rates, increase convictions for corruption, and therefore fight with the communities the gender-based violence and femicide, and enhance support for victims of crime and gender-based violence, and create safer homes for such people that are affected, and further fight against the crisis that relates to children pregnancy within our own communities, because it's not acceptable. The Lekgotla was vocal about the unacceptability of the number of the children that get pregnant, and henceforth we are going to take out a process of engaging the communities, the families, and the sectors, in particular education sector and traditional leaders and churches, around the campaign against the pregnancies amongst the children. Shame. Elate. The ANC will strengthen its organizational capacity, promote internal democracy, accountability, transparency, whilst we will ensure that we remain a campaigning organization. Because all these particular matters that I have spoken about, it's a matter that the ANC must intensify, campaign, consolidate its work within the communities, work with various stakeholders, in particular of the like-mindedness of those particular community members. So we have to fight against all the social ills working with the community. And we hope that the media also will be part of that particular advocacy against the social ills. The African National Congress, dear friends, have also resolved to work to campaign against the crisis, dim crisis in the world stage of the domination of one nation by another. Henceforth, the ANC in the Eastern Cape has embedded itself with the need to call for intensification of the fight against the dominance of one country by another. In particular, to join the campaign for the release of President of Venezuela, Maduro, and his wife, and work with various like-minded organizations in South Africa and in Africa and throughout the world for such solidarity campaigns about Cuba, about Venezuela, about Palestine, and ensure that we improve the organizational efficiency, unity of the movement, enhance accountability and transparency, and ensure that we do partnership programs with various African countries and once again with global organizations to fight against this particular crisis. The Lekgotla received closing remarks from the provincial chairperson, who emphasized the importance of the unity within the organization, renewal, speeding up implementation of the resolutions, in particular that will enhance the efficiencies within government. We are not lacking resolutions. We are lacking the dedication to implement the resolutions of the African National Congress in government efficiency, and that is how we are going to be able to see the change that we aspire for and ensure that there is maximum employment capabilities within the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will now take questions. I'm going to request that we identify ourselves and the media house that we're coming from, and then we can take questions one after the other. Yes, will be number one, number two, number three. Okay, let's take this first. You can come through first.
Ronald from ENCA. Just a question around the two regional conferences, Sarah Batman and Amatola. Were there any delays to this, and how does this affect the conference, elected conference?
Okay. The next one.
Hey, my name is Yamgela Mchia from Bumagamba TV. I just want to touch on the last point that you made, Mabala. You said there is a lack of dedication in the resolution. Perhaps why is that, and how do you plan on resolving that issue?
Yes.
Ursula Vanda from the Voice Lounge. I think my question is two-pronged, but it's focused mainly on youth unemployment and the renewal agenda. And the first one is asking whether the PEC has finalized vetting processes for all degrees to ensure they are in line with the party's renewal agenda, and what specific consequence management measures have been adopted for those who have failed to meet service delivery targets. And on youth unemployment, how will the province enforce the 30% procurement set aside for youth-owned enterprises to ensure it benefits local entrepreneurs and combat high youth unemployment in the province?
Okay. Nobala, you lead us, and then we can all add after.
Thank you very much. Anyone who wants to take anyone, but on the conferences from ENCA, the delays, we have faced many delays in South Apartment. There were both systematic failures or alternatively challenges, and some are organizational matters. The South Apartment could not meet its 70% threshold because the membership capturing system had many faults and delays. Henceforth, we are finding ourselves in this particular situation. That's the only reason that had a delay of more than 6 months to convene its own regional conference. But they are ready now. We're awaiting the final verification report from the Secretary General. All other processes have been completed, and by this week, we're expecting that particular region to convene its own regional conference. Amatola has no delays. In fact, they have put front the dates for their own regional conference. So they are going to have an early convened regional conference. Their conference was supposed to be in May, and now they are convening it for the end of March. So there are no delays in Amatola. In fact, they will be certainly they will hold it on record time. If other comrades want to take other questions, they can take. Chair, Deputy Secretary.
Deputy Chair, on the procurement.
I'll take on the one on the 30%. procurement, as you would know that the new regulations were after the new regulations were completed. We, as Provincial Treasury, we ensured that all departments do have the new regulations, and we're assisting them not only on the youth employment, but also on the youth procurement, but also on women disability. So we're looking at all that called designated group when it comes to that, because we do have a framework at the provincial level that deals with the local economic procurement development framework. So we locate it within that framework to ensure that we look at all the designated groups.
Okay.
There's something about vetting and all of that.
Should I deal with vetting? Yeah, I think I should just deal with vetting. The ANC has established committees to screen all people that are called ANC candidates for local government elections. And that process has not started to screen those individuals. We are going to have, we have got National Electoral Commission led by Utata Mutlande, and at a provincial level we have got what is called the PLC, Provincial List Committee, as led by Jack. Now, at a local level, regional level, we have got what is called regional interviewing and vetting panels. Now, RIVP. Now, we are going to start with branch general meetings, and those branch general meetings will nominate 4 candidates, and those 4 candidates will be presented to the communities, and that particular work is going to start soon, and they are going to be presented to the communities, and the communities will make an assessment on the suitability of the 4 candidates, and post that particular process. So if they agree that so and so is the best candidate that can represent the ANC within this particular ward, within the framework of the policies of the ANC and its principles, then they will advise this that this is the best candidate to represent the ANC in this particular ward, as we are always doing. But they are also doing the vetting. They will reject candidates who have either criminal or their ethical and integrity is questioned, because these individuals stay and live with these people in those particular communities. That is the first tracker of the vetting process. The second vetting is that none of the 4 candidates that the ANC will present to the community will come without a police clearance certificate, because that police clearance certificate will indicate whether this individual does have a criminal record or not. So that particular element of credible ethical candidates for the African National Congress will be done in 2 phases, that the community itself does its own vetting, but also the RIVP will ensure that there is a thoroughgoing process of ensuring that individuals are vetted. The ANC has, I think, issued out those particular guidelines for the selection of candidates. Part of those particular selection criteria speaks about the 1, academic acumen, 2, the experience in leading, working with the people. Thirdly, it speaks about the political acumen, understanding and consciousness of such individuals. Fourthly, it speaks about the ensuring that ANC as a gender-sensitive organization, non-sexist organization, ensure that there is a preference of women cadres to be deployed into the state. So such matters will be dealt with in that particular manner. So the issue that relates to this vetting comes into effect in that particular fashion. I thought I should just deal with that particular matter. So that's how we are going to combat the problems that relates to ethical individuals. Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you very much. But also that's an ANC vetting process on the candidate selection. As you would understand that ANC has adopted the meritocracy approach in identifying its representatives or public representatives. But in government, there's an ongoing process of vetting. We are basically taking vetting to another level now, to the lifestyle audit, as the executive has done the lifestyle audit. So now we're cascading that to the senior government officials and all other critical officials. We would want it to also be further cascaded to the local government sphere. So I think also national government has adopted that, which will be rolled out through COGTA, particularly for the national government. So the vetting is an ongoing process. As also people are employed in government, they get vetted and all that. The lack of implementation, I'm not sure what we mean by that. Yes, of course, there will be delays here and there. I wouldn't get an exact question around that. But my legal experience since I joined government has been that sometimes the poor annual plans, the poor planning has always been causing that. For instance, when plans of government are not targeting that government departments must roll out the implementation as at the 1st of the April, only to realize that when the financial year starts, people start procuring. They take the whole first quarter to a second quarter procuring services, only to start working on a third to the fourth quarter. That has been a really problem that we're looking at, which we are really turning around, which is actually caused by poor planning and poor execution of plans. We're looking at that. Come 1st of April, we're expecting people to be awarding tenders, people to be awarding letters of employment to those who are supposed to be employed. Because by now, people in government know what services will they be actually procuring next year. If it's roads and schools and all that, they should be procuring those as way of preparing for the next financial year. So we're dealing with that issue. But there's a general improvement in government, how government improves in terms of targets, because also the problem of low targets has been a problem, a historic chronic problem in the system. We're changing the system, how the government works in the system, so that we improve targets. So it's one of those issues that we would want to see this a smooth transition from term to another term, or from a financial year to another financial year, so that the officials know what happens moving forward. So we're dealing with that issue, and it has been a bit a concerning issue that we're spending too much time in a financial year procuring, and now we are all actually having tight hands because officials must do the procurement. It's only officials who can deal with that. But it's something that we've put it under microscopic view to make sure that government works optimally. There's a optimal efficiency across the entire ecosystem of the functionality of government. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? ENCA?
Ubabe kuthiwa masigqibezele njengesilingqibeza ngelithi ANC has on its own, and government has done so too, to establish monitoring and evaluation units. Now we are going to even monitor the procurement plans if they are adhered to. We are going to monitor the performance target if they are achieved on targeted times. We are going to also monitor the spending processes of government. The COGTA has issued out a booklet of non-negotiables. And that booklet on non-negotiables is not going to be gathering dust. The African National Congress, through its monitoring and evaluation subcommittee, is going to monitor whether there is compliance insofar as that particular matter is concerned. The Lekgotla agreed that we are not going to negotiate on non-expenditure of government grants. There are going to be consequences. Those that do not spend government grants are going to be held individually and personally liable for non-expenditure, and the ANC will have to take action against such individuals.
Okay. ENC, you should be the last. Oh, follow-up, second follow-up, okay. Is that all?
Kodkani izizwe liphela ityala.
Yes.
The Provincial Chair, you mentioned during your closing remarks at this ANC party will be ready for the election. We know that it's probably months away, but the question I would like to ask, during the 2024 national election, one of the big issues nationally for the ANC was the voter turnout. How would you ensure that people come in their numbers when it's time to vote for this year's local government election?
Okay, the last one, very last one.
Is just to ask the panel if by any chance did you have discussions on the conflict between traditional leadership and political governance? I think in the Eastern Cape now we're dealing with the issue of the king who's sort of like seems to have moved on and met and had discussions with statesmen from different countries. So what are your thoughts then? Do you have that discussion and you're talking about non-negotiables when it comes to governance and so on? What are your thoughts on that as the panel?
Leadership.
Well, if I can come in on the question from ENCA, yes, definitely this has been concerning, as you would always look at the trends juxtaposing the two, the local elections and the national elections, you would always see an improvement. For us to protect the democratic dispensation, you need the active citizenry. You need an active participation of our people. For any government to claim legitimate, it must be a government that is the government of the people, for the people, by the people. So we will be definitely embarking on a massive public participation from a government point of view, but also encouraging political parties through your open day voter registration to mobilize people to register to vote. But in government, from the municipality upwards, we have got public participation programs. Legislatures do have public participation. So we'll be embarking on a massive public participation, giving our people, but also have been observing some things that were surprising, particularly in the last elections, the so-called spoiled ballots. So you would have to continue with voter education as part of that work. So even other institutions, institution for democracy, etc., they are interested on that. So we need to focus on issue of voter apathy and political apathy at the same time. We need to inspire our people and ensuring that our people are able to go out. Part of the issue that we need to do is to improve service delivery, because if our people are able to are satisfied, are able to get services that are expecting from government, it's going to be easy to mobilize them because they're looking forward to see government. So particularly in the Eastern Cape, they are not interested to go and look for another government because they've seen that this government is capable, has got a potential to push things to a higher level. So it's important that we work around that and ensuring that we've got social cohesion, we've got political stability in the province, because where there's political stability, you are guaranteed of policy certainty. The next question around the traditional leaders, I don't really think that ANC is at loggerheads or is at war with the traditional leaders. We work well with the traditional leaders, we work well with the Contralesa. Yes, there are problems that traditional leaders are raising, concerns that are raising around the issues of their own particular benefits, which are being attended to. Some are really distorted because government has actually processed the issue of medical aids, etc. But like any other person, a traditional leader is expected to arrange the medical aid through the service provider and ensure that the traditional leader contributes, as all of us contributes towards medical aid. But we are looking at that issue in a broader context of the salaries they get, the income. I know nationally there's work that is being done to address that particular problem, but in the province we are dealing with that. So the issue of traditional leaders who choose to go to political parties is not an issue of a traditional leader, it's an issue of political interest. And you cannot stop that. We have seen traditional leaders going to DA, going to EFF, going to ATM, etc., etc. And we cannot stop that. So any traditional leader that is honest and genuine on matters that pertains or related to traditional leaders, we are having an open door arrangement. We go to any traditional authority, we sit down and explain issues that might not be clear or uncertain. So, but we cannot stop individuals. we always prefer not to have traditional leaders being political active, because they are really a last line of defense where they should be prevailing when political parties are fighting against each other as custodian of our people. So immediately they get involved in the politics, we deal with them as political activists, no longer as traditional leaders, because you can't actually use the traditional leadership institution as a refugee camp whilst we are advancing a particular political agenda or an ideological interest. So from there, as a matter of principle, we've been engaging traditional leaders in government, in the ANC. We've got a cordial relation, a relationship that has got its own teething problems like any other relationship you can find out there.
I think we should just address one thing, colleagues. Because you have highlighted the matter that relates to the king of Abatembo. It's obvious how he relates to politics is a matter that Abatembo as a tribe must reflect on. They must reflect on it very seriously because it's concerning. We have a sense that he has betrayed everything that his forefathers and his father stood for, who fought for the liberation of South Africa, who fought against apartheid and Bantustan regime, and whose father died in exile in Zambia. Now, it's upon Abatembo to reflect on that particular matter. But we once again think that the king of Abatembo was completely out of order for having gone out of his way without consulting anybody to invite the worst enemies of the people, an apartheid state of Israel, who have butchered people in Palestine, who have even had the audacity to think that they can bring clean drinking water to rural people of Eastern Cape, using the crisis of water in that particular area as an entry point for their programs as Israel. We must not take kindly to the fact that the enemy of South Africa, being Israel, wishes to utilize the traditional leaders to enter into the back room of our country. Recently, the media here knows that our country has taken that particular country, Israel, to international court on their genocidal attitude perpetrated against the peoples of Palestine. Now, it cannot be that in the Eastern Cape, you'll find one of ourselves, the traditional leader, that becomes an inviter of a state that has been declared as an apartheid state by a United Nations. Now, the king was completely out of order, and he knows that what he's doing is a betrayal of the trust of his own subjects in that particular area. Now, it's upon the Tembos to reflect on the conduct of their own king insofar as this particular matter is concerned. We applaud the stance that has been taken by government of South Africa, and we fully support that particular stance of expelling that particular ambassador of Israel, who has broken all protocols in engaging between the state and the state. We hope that all South Africans will support this particular matter. The Provincial, who is also a premier, has already spoken about the need to agitate for more services, in particular in rural areas. Henceforth, our Lekgotla resolutions is emphatic on the need to provide clean drinking water to the communities, agitating for better hospitals and for more medicines. And that is why last year the provincial government of the Eastern Cape employed so many doctors, nurses, and other pharmacists in the hospitals to ensure that we have got capabilities to serve the people of the Eastern Cape better, efficiently. So we have got that particular capability. That's why we are speaking about the efficiencies on government to spend and to ensure that we provide better services to our people.
This is The Voice Lounge, coming to you live on www.thevoicelounge.co.za.